Hi, I'm Chuck Olenek. I'm a reenactor. That means I tend to wear funny clothes and try to bring the past to life. And for 36 years in the classroom, that's exactly what I did. Which is why I have a room filled with garb that doesn't even belong to this century. And now I have time on my hands, that room full of garb. Oh, and by the way, I'm getting more. A passion for bringing the past to life, which I had in the classroom, and a desire to preserve landmarks. And that's especially pointed considering what I filmed yesterday. I'm on what I very pretentiously like to call a mission Odyssey. And I am visiting each of the missions. Asistencias, those are spin-off missions. Estancias, those are ranchos to support the missions. Presidios, those are fortifications to protect the missions. Plus any other points of historical interest that are connected to Alta California. And it's especially important now because since I've begun this journey of mine, this Odyssey, I have seen a statue of Father Serra taken away from in front of Ventura City Hall, and it's been moved over to the Mission San Buenaventura. I have seen a police presence in front of Mission San Gabriel. This is right before the fire, and the police were there to protect the statue. The fire did take place at Mission San Gabriel, which was devastating. I at least managed to get some footage there. And when I came yesterday to Mission San Fernando, I noticed going into the park across the street that there had once been a statue of Father Serra. It had been removed, and now there are candles lit on that pedestal. So that's more pressure. I've got to film this stuff. I want to record this, and I'm doing it in garb. And I had so much to tell about Mission San Fernando. I had to come back. So I hope you stick with me on this journey. There is a lot of turmoil in Alta California. The missions have been secularized, which means the lands have been given away to private owners. It also is not helping that Mexico has lost Texas to the United States. One of the real sticking points that's irritating the native-born Californios is they want to have a governor of Alta California who's a Californio, who's native-born. But Mexico insists on putting in Mexican-born governors. And that's kind of like an American Revolution thing where you had, governors being appointed from Britain to the various colonies. Like, hey, wait a minute, we want to vote for our governor. It's not happening that way. It doesn't help matters when Mexican President Santa Anna ends up sending Brigadier General Manuel Michel Torrena to be the governor of Alta California, because Michel Torrena is not a Californio. Michel Torrena is also not very popular because he's reportedly got like a bunch of former convicts in his army as he moves into California and he settles down in Monterey. And now there are rumors about a rebellion that might be taking place. And in response, Michel Torrena ends up issuing orders for the arrest of former Governor Juan Bautista Alvarado. So Michel Torrena had been sent to California with this army that he'd recruited essentially out of the prisons. He seemed to have very little control of his army, or at least that's the story. And his army is basically descending upon California like locusts. And, you know, women were not considered safe. I mean, there was just all sorts of chaos. And these events, along with the idea that the United States is looking at manifest destiny and, hey, spreading out, folks in California are nervous. And so this revolt grows up. By default, Alvarado is in charge of the rebels. Michel Torrena, he's going to appoint John Sutter, you know, Sutter's Mill guy. Okay. He's going to lead the opposition troops. And Sutter is going to drag John Marsh, he's one of the largest ranchos in California, into this, even though Marsh has absolutely no desire to be involved. Sutter forces him in. Well, now the two forces are going to meet at Cahuenga Pass. So this quiet suburban neighborhood is the site of the Battle of Providencia in 1845. Doesn't really look like the site of a battlefield, does it? Now, they're going to spend about half a day shooting at each other with artillery, right? The cannons are just firing at each other. As a matter of fact, there's so many that even today, if you start digging around, you can possibly dig up some cannonballs. All right. Now, Marsh, the guy who was dragged in unwillingly, kicking and screaming into this, he's on Michel Torrena's side. Remember, he's kind of blaming Sutter for this stuff. He is starting to talk to the troops and discouraging them. And at one point during the battle, he ends up getting to talk to troops from both sides, saying, hey, you guys shouldn't be fighting each other. So now Marsh has got people from both sides talking, and he's pretty much convinced them, hey, you know what? We shouldn't be fighting each other. Yeah, you're right. The two forces team up, and now it's against Michel Torrena. And basically the body count is going to be 2 horses, and when there's a wounded mule. That's the Second Battle of Cahuenga Pass, or the Battle of Providencia. Result, there's going to be a new governor, Pio Pico. After the essentially bloodless Battle of Cahuenga Pass II, Pio Pico became the last Mexican governor of Alta California and further handed over mission properties to friends and family. Brother Andres received ex-mission San Fernando. With Texan independence, followed by Texas joining the United States, and with the forces of manifest destiny at work, war with Mexico became inevitable. On December 27, 1846, John C. Fremont, the Pathfinder, led the California Battalion into Santa Barbara. It was largely deserted. And Fremont met with Doña Bernarda Ruiz de Rodriguez, who was a very wealthy woman, and she was pretty much considered mom for Santa Barbara. He asked to meet with her for maybe 10 minutes. He just wanted to kind of talk and figure out where things were going. And this turned into a 2-hour conversation, during which time she convinced Fremont that maybe a gentler approach with the Mexican forces and the Mexican people in California would lead to better results. To have the treaty that was going to be proposed to bring peace not be so harsh. And she agreed to accompany him on his march to the south. So they came here through the Newhall, or what's going to become the Newhall Pass, and marched on towards Mission San Fernando Rey de España, which is no longer a mission at this point. By January 8th, John C. Fremont had arrived at mission, or actually the former mission of San Fernando Rey de España. See, at this point, it wasn't a mission anymore, and the property had been leased to Andres Pico, who was the brother of the governor, Pio Pico, and this was leased to him as his summer home. So to have an American occupying force showing up at his home had to be really depressing. Well, Pico is going to hear more depressing news. January 10th, the city of Los Angeles was taken over again by American forces led by General Kearny and Stockton. And now it's starting to look hopeless for the Mexican forces in California. So what will end up happening is Doña Bernarda, who accompanied Fremont from Santa Barbara, she's going to go travel on the 12th to meet with Pico, and negotiations for peace or a treaty are beginning. On January 13th, Fremont, along with Doña Bernarda looking on, met with the Mexican forces, and they signed the Articles of Capitulation, which got rephrased later as the Treaty of Cahuenga, surrendering California to the American forces. Following the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, Alta California became part of the United States. Rancho life continued as best it could. Mission San Fernando fell into further disarray. From 1857 until 1861, part of Mission San Fernando was used as a station for the Butterfield stage line. And while the United States government did ultimately return mission lands to the church, there were too few people to restore the church property to its former glory. One of the indignities that befell Mission San Fernando in 1896, the quadrangle was leased out as a hog farm. Charles Fletcher Loomis, a prominent member of the Landmarks Club, began a campaign to reclaim the mission property in 1896. He wrote that the historic structures were falling to ruin with frightful rapidity, their roofs being breached or gone, the adobe walls melting under the winter rains. In 10 years from now, unless our intelligence shall awaken at once, there will remain of these noble piles nothing but a few indeterminable heaps of adobe. We shall deserve and shall have the contempt of all thoughtful people if we suffer our noble missions to fall. This is why I'm recording this. trying to create a visual record. When I came here in June, there was a statue here. Oh, there's another statue gone. Let's figure out where we are. So far, 3 assistencias, a presidio, a couple of mission dams. Okay, 3 mission dams, an old mill, and 5 missions accomplished. I like saying that. So now I get to drive 15 miles to an assistencia, or actually an estancia, or the remains of one, and then I will swing by here and continue my trek up the Camino Real to Mission San Buenaventura. I hope you stick with me.